As we always kick off the show, I want everybody to take a moment and think about what Goldilocks reminds you of. To me, Goldilocks is all about balance because she didn't want anything too hot. She didn't want anything too cold, right? She didn't want anything too hard. She didn't want anything too soft. And to me, that epitomizes the balance we need to drive the kind of change and influence the change we want to see. Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. So lovely to have our audience from Latin America, Caribbean, United States, and we have some live streaming on Facebook from Asia. Welcome to everybody, and couldn't be happier to have you all with us this morning. As always, as you know, we are live streaming, and you have given your consent to be on these videos, so thank you for being a star. Thank you for sharing your ideas and knowledge with everybody. And as we start the show, I always like to remind our audience why we do what we do every Saturday morning. When I think of Goldilocks, what comes to my mind is how she's always trying to make sure that wherever she sits is not too soft, not too hard. Her bed is not too soft, not too hard. Everything she eats is not too hot, not too cold, right? So as Goldilocks looks to find her balance in the story, the same way we in our lives have to find that right balance so that we can go through life in a meaningful way, in an impactful way. And why is that important for us as young adults and professionals? Research shows that we can each impact 3 levels from where we are. So imagine if I'm right at the bottom of the pyramid, right? I can only impact people at my level and 3 levels above me. If I'm a CEO or an executive or a head of a household, and I am trying to influence, I can only influence my peer level and 3 levels down. But what if I meet everybody halfway and start impacting people and influencing people from the middle, regardless of my title, right? Regardless of my title, if I can show up in the middle, then I can influence 3 levels up, 3 levels down, and at my level. Now, all of a sudden, I have 7 degrees of influence. Success in life is predicated on how many people we can influence to accomplish what we are trying to accomplish, right? Because each of our journeys are different. And as we take this journey, how do we be prudent? How do we be authentic to ourselves and show up in that authentic self where we can meet everybody halfway? Because otherwise we are going to be on either extreme of an issue. And when we are on extremes, we are extremists, right? It doesn't matter what the issue is. Right? So whether it's business, whether it's society, whether it's family, how do we meet each other in the middle? And how do we solve our problems? And how do we help ourselves? And how do we empower ourselves and each other while being in that centeredness is the theme. As we talk about today's topic, we're going to come from that same place of centeredness. I'm super excited today to have 2 wonderful young ladies and professionals to talk about the road least traveled. That image there is showing you how it is a little dark. There's very little light coming through. There is not much footpath or traffic. It's a road that most people don't travel. What is the advantage of going down a path where most people haven't been? There's a lot for you to choose from. It's kind of like going to a garden where nobody else has been. So you have all the flowers and all the fruit already there and nobody has plucked anything away, right? It's in its natural state. It's in its beauty, and you can chart your own course and you can make it the way you want it to be. So there is something to be said about taking a path that is different from somebody else. And keeping in mind that no 2 of us are wired the same way. Our purpose and our role here in this world are not always the same. We always start the conversation with purpose, right? Because we want to keep centered on this. what each of us love to do, what are we great at, and what the world needs. The intersection of these three are our purpose. And each of our purpose are different because each of us love to do different things. We are good at different things. And our world in our own space is different. So how we bring our purpose together is going to be very different for each of us. If that's the case, then how can we take somebody else's road? Right? So don't think that your path has to be followed based on somebody else's path that has already been taken. You are unique, you are enough, you have your own purpose, and therefore you need to shape it your way to suit you. So I also wanted to introduce the book that is coming out in a few weeks on the 20th of October, where I talk about life lessons on how to take your own path and how to become noble through that journey so that you can live an ennobled, empowered, and positive life. In the chat, I have given you the link to go and sign up for information on the book and additional insights and wisdom as we go through the launch. Feel free to sign up and stay involved, okay? And Ennobled for Success is a journey that is going to help you take some nuggets of wisdom and lessons learned and apply for you. For those of you who have been with us since the August-September kickoff, you will know that we started the conversation early on talking about the importance of being, right? Each of us need to understand who are we and who are we being. And when we show up authentically as our being, connected to our purpose, with our passion to serve what the world needs, then everything we do becomes successful because we are able to chart our course and be true to who we are. Okay? How many times have we met people in life where they say something and then how they show up in life are so very different? And then we don't trust them, we don't believe them. Right? You know when you talk to somebody in the first few seconds, are they being real or are they being fake, right? You want to make sure that you are showing up as a being in your authentic self so that people are able to connect with you and you really resonate as a real person. And another important lesson to remember as you take your own journey and shape your own path is your name is your brand. Let's take a moment and sit back and think about, we have audience from Belize, Chile, and the United States right here on Zoom, right? So think about your holiday season. Uncles and aunts and everybody comes over for a meal. There are some names when you hear, you're like, oh my God, I don't want to sit next to that person. Oh, I need to find a way to stay away from this person because I don't want to answer these questions or those questions. Or tell the rest of the family, please be careful and don't let them get under your skin, right? We do that, right? Because we know certain names, certain relatives are going to get on our last nerve, right? We always relate an emotion to a name. Our name is our brand. How are people reacting and acting to our name is going to determine how we are going to be as we grow in our career, right? It's not just the product that you're selling or the company you're working for is a brand. Your name is your ultimate brand. What image do you want people to have in their mind when they hear your name, when they think of your name? Okay? And so be mindful in how you build your brand because that's what you're going to draw from and that's what people are going to count on as you take your journey and as they help your journey. Okay? What do I mean by that? So when I take a step back, and as I was growing up, I used to read a lot, and I went and did research on what my name meant. My full name is Kasturi. In America, they call me Cass because it's kind of easier to say, right? Americans have a hard time saying, names that are more than 3 syllables. So we shorten everybody's names here. But what Kasturi literally means is there's a deer in the Himalayas, And the male deer carries a musk in his navel. And his whole life, he walks around wondering, where is that beautiful fragrance coming from? Oh my God, that is so beautiful. If I can only get my hands on it, I just want to get close to it. And as the story goes, he keeps looking for it his whole life. And then when he keels over to die and he's curled up, he realizes it's already in his navel. He was carrying it his whole life. Now, this musk is used for perfumes, and it is also used in Ayurvedic medicine as a medicine of last resort. If no other medication is going to help, they give you this musk, and if this musk doesn't save your life, then your time is up, okay? So a child named Kasturi, they modify the name for a male or a female name, and a child named Kasturi is expected to grow up knowing everything they need to be happy and successful in this life is already inside them. It's already inside you, just draw from within, okay? So when a child is named Kasturi, they are named with the intent of building that confidence and building that ability to know that you got it, okay? But it doesn't have to just come from a name, right? We all have it in us. We all have it in us to draw from within, to take our path, take our journey, and live our purpose. So how do we build a brand that is authentic to how I want to show up and who I am? And how is that going to help me? So I have built my life from the perspective of understanding my name and what that means. So that means I can help myself and I have enough to help somebody else, right? So that has been my brand. Those of you who know me know that that's how I show up, right? So each of you have to figure out what your purpose is, what your brand needs to be, how you want to show up. And then it's a matter of just taking your journey. You don't need to know the end, right? When we are born into this world, we don't know where life is going to be. We come in kicking and screaming like, here I am, take me as I am, right? When a baby comes into this world, it just arrives. We can actually take life the same way. As long as we have faith in ourselves and we have the courageous optimism, and that is stronger than our fear, we can take the path, because every step we take is going to open up new opportunities forward, because we're not going to take the whole journey at once. We're going to take it a step at a time. And as we take a step at a time, we're going to enjoy the journey. We're going to make friends and relationships along the way. And we're going to love every moment. And there are going to be people around us. Just like all of you are here today to support me, to support Gigi, to support Karlee, and you are here to support each other, right? Every week, this group keeps growing. Why? Every step we take, we are building and we are collecting relationships and we are supporting each other's pursuit. Therefore, together we're building momentum, and together we're all going to accomplish what we want to. Because this doesn't end with the conversation here, right? You're all building relationships outside of here. You're all helping each other and learning from each other. So your life journey is going to be the same way. Keep that faith, because ultimately the universe recognizes the positive energy and meets positive energy with positive opportunities. Have you noticed happy people always have great things happening to them? Right? The universe is all about energy. The energy we put out there is the same energy that attracts us. And it's the same energy that is attracted to us. So keep these nuggets in your mind. These and more are discussed in the book. I just wanted to share this with you as each of you start building your own unique path. You have some of these anchors and pillars. And you always remember, you are enough. You have a purpose, right? And your positivity is going to be contagious. And therefore, your journey is going to be fulfilling and people are going to show up to support you. because you're building a brand, you're building relationships, and you're going about it the right way with mindfulness. So with that, I would love to take the opportunity to introduce our amazing guests today. We have Gigi Godfrey from beautiful Caribbean Belize, one of my favorite places in Latin America, in South America and Central America. And Gigi is somebody who has lived through challenges. Life doesn't always work out the way you plan, right? So even though life has dealt her challenges, she has figured out ways to actually find her purpose and take her journey towards her purpose very young in life and become successful. And she's be the first to tell you, she's still growing. She's still learning. She's still taking her journey like we all are, right? So we're going to learn from her experience and her wisdom. And then she's also going to help answer some questions and help build on the dialogue. And then we have Karlee Peterson. I love what Karlee does. Karlee is originally from South Dakota, and she was raised in a rodeo family. And she loves the sport. She grew up in that sport world. But in college, she stumbled into the opportunity to be in TV and production. And she got an internship and landed in a job where she is a Western sports producer for the Cowboy Channel. It's amazing how when you love what you do and you put your passion and you put yourself out there, the universe just emerges to meet you. So keeping that in mind, let's join the lovely ladies. And I am going to kick this off with Gigi. Gigi and Karlee, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Cass. You always hypnotize me when you talk. I could sit and listen to you every day.
Oh, you're too kind. So Gigi, why don't you take a moment and share with us what growing up was like and what gave you the courage and the wherewithal at a young age to truly find your purpose and fearlessly go after it?
I'm 27, so yes, I'm pretty young. And I lost my dad about 13 years ago. Before losing my dad, I was spoiled. I was the spoiled daughter. My dad made sure I have everything. I would have, if I want it, I got it, But at the same time, he grew us up in a way that we had to work for it as well. So he made us do all the educational games when it comes to watching TV. So from growing up, we have always been on our toes, on our tippy toes. We've always tried to do our very best. So when I lost him, it was what now, So it was only me, my mom, and my sister. It's only 3 of us. And my mom was the type too that she was at home. She was spoiled as well because my dad would go to work, come home, and cook for her, and she was spoiled. So when we lost my dad, it was everyone was what now? How do we go from there to get over the hold of losing him? So I was still in high school. So my mom started working, and she ended up putting me through high school. So I graduated and everything. And I was okay, so what now? What's my next step? I started working part-time and started sending myself to university. And that whole young age, you're distracted with what's going on in the world and everything, what's going on with all the other classmates and students. You get distracted, so you're not really focused in school. So it was all of that going on in my head, and trying to make sure that in the end that I end up whatever I'm doing in terms of work and school, that it benefits me. So it did take me a long time to finish university because I was working part-time and trying to like pay myself through school. So I ended up landing a job for an assistant for an insurance agency. And I was there for a couple of years, and I used to travel back and forth on the bus every day, then still go to school. So it was kind of like tiring for a young person, but I still pulled through. I graduated with my associates, and I was still working with the insurance agent at the time. So I was an assistant. I learned every single thing from that person, from that agent. Because he's a very well-known agent here in Belize as well. So I kind of like looked up to him. I kind of like, in a sense, I watched how he was with his clients, how he was with his family, you know, and everything. And I was like trying to like mirror it in a sense. Like if he could do it, like someday maybe, you know, I could do it, you know. And the company that we were working for, my boss at the time, he decided to leave, and he wanted to venture off into something bigger as well for him. So I understood that, but like something in the back of my head was like, Gigi, don't go that route. Like try and go another route. So I ended up sticking with the same company for a bit. So I was like unemployed for like a little bit. And because of who I am and because of the person that I was in terms of the assistant to the agent, word went about, and the person that was taking over, she was like, Gigi, I want to hire you because you already know all the clients, you already know what's happening, and I don't need to go and train someone else. So I stayed with her. I was employed with her for like a year, and she had recently had a baby, so she was like super stressed, and she was managing the office. She was managing 2 offices, and she was like, all of a sudden she was like, I can't take the other office. She was like, I'll need to let you go, so you'll need to start finding another job. I was like, okay. So I started applying for jobs. I applied at a job for Atlantic Bank, for a bank here, and like behind the back of my head, I was like, you know, Gigi, you can do this. Like, why don't you put in your request to take over the agency? Because she doesn't want it and you want it. So why can't you just take that step and try and get it done? One of the major issues with the company was my age. They said I was too young, that I wouldn't be able to like take on the challenge of being an agent because of my age.
You were under 25, right?
Yes, I was. Yes, around that age. I was super young. So they were like, no, we don't think you'll be able to do it. I was like, okay. So I continued looking for jobs and everything, but I still pressed on. I sent in my business plan and everything. And the day I got the call from the bank that I got the job was the same day I got the call from the company saying they're gonna give me the chance. I instantly called back the bank. I was like, no, thank you. Thank you for the offer. I think I'll take another route in my life. I appreciate you giving me the time. And I took the offer of taking up the agency. So it was crazy. It was like, I was like, whoa, like, you know, like it's happening. I was scared, but at the same time, I was like, I was doing it for the agents. I was managing the offices. Why can't I do it myself? And I ended up proving them wrong, because just the other day one of the managers was like, Gigi, you doing it, you're making it happen. And every single year I've been growing my portfolio. So I was like, you know, like I'm doing it. Like, so it just made me like all the hurdles in life and everything, like I'm seeing it pay off. And right now I'm going over another big hurdle, but I'm finally seeing the light because I'm relocating my office. So I had the stress of getting a location, of getting a building, of getting everything. So, and in times of COVID, who wants to be spending money? But I'm getting it done. So that's been my journey so far. I've been in the industry since I was 20 years old, and I'm 27 now. So I'm just keep on growing and learning and pacing myself to just try and get, you know, somewhere figure that everyone at the same time, when they hear my name, they know who am I? I'm Gigi.
And there are people here today supporting you, Gigi. So
Yes,
that
yes.
speaks a lot for you. And full disclosure, I met Gigi when I had to go get homeowners insurance for our retirement home in Belize, by the way. That's how I met Gigi. Gigi is my insurance agent. Fell in love with her at our first meeting. It only took me 5 minutes.
now I call her Auntie Cass. She's my auntie.
So it is amazing how when you put your heart and soul into it and you take a part that everybody says you can't, you are going to succeed. And the true joy comes from proving that, you know what? I made it.
Yeah.
And every time people say you may not be able to, don't take it negatively. Take that as a challenge. Take that as a challenge and press on, because that's going to give you that much more impetus to move forward. And life is going to throw you unexpected roadblocks, right? This can happen to us young in life. This can happen to us older in life. So with that, I am going to turn over to Karlee. Karlee has an amazing story, and I love horses. I've been asking my husband to buy me a horse. He keeps telling me if he bought me one, he would have to clean up after it, so he won't get me one. So we're still negotiating that. But Karlee has my dream life. So I want Karlee to take a moment and share her journey and what actually motivated her to take a path that is so unusual.
Yeah. So I grew up, I'm from South Dakota, and I grew up and I have an amazing family. And I grew up doing rodeo, and we traded horses and we trained horses. And I knew from a young age that I was never going to leave this world. I knew from a young age that this was the greatest thing on the planet. But I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know if you could get a real girl or a real adult job in that. And so, we grew up going to went to high school, rodeoed, all that stuff. And then I went to college. When I went to college, I was offered a scholarship to rodeo for college. And that was a huge opportunity, because then I was able to rodeo in college, and as well as not have to pay for it. And so that, once I got to college, I originally in high school was bound and determined to become a lawyer. And then when I got to college, I was not wanting to be in school for 7 years. and so I switched to marketing. I knew that marketing had a very broad, options of things that you could do. And so I went to school for marketing. And then, in college, my freshman year, I made it to the college finals for rodeo. And while I was there, ESPN was doing interviews with all of us, and because ESPN does all the coverage there. And one of the questions was, they said, what do you want to do when you get older? What's, some of your dream goals? And I'm like, I'm a freshman in college rodeoing. I don't have a clue what I want to do. I don't have a single idea. I'm just here getting my degree, and we're just going to play it by ear. And they just said, they're like, well, if you ever want an internship, just call us and we'll, set you up something. And so I was like, okay, don't think anything of it as a freshman in college. We're just happy to be there. And then the next year I didn't make it to college finals. And so I called, and it just happened to be, I was like, that was one of the greatest weeks of my life. I want to go back to college finals. And so I called them and I said, I don't know if this is still an option, but I would love to come. And they were like, yep. They said, pack your bags, get over here. And so I said, okay. And so I went over there, and it was amazing. And I was introduced into an entirely different aspect of rodeo, an entirely different world of looking at rodeo, because very rarely do you ever meet somebody in TV or in production that has any Western background. And so, I was able to kind of introduce a different perspective to them, but they also introduced a million other perspectives to me of looking at rodeo and a different appreciation for it. And that week, I had the worst jobs that week, but it was so good for me. I was carrying coffee. I was carrying lights. I was carrying cameras. I had to log. And so every single thing that we took a shot of, I had to go and, with like a camera shot of, I had to go and write it down and time codes. And I had the worst jobs, but it was was the greatest lessons for me because I was so unaware of anything in production. And so then after that, they gave me a few other opportunities and stuff, but I was very scared that I was like, this is a terrifying industry. TV is the most cutthroat thing you can be a part of. And I am just some little rodeo kid from South Dakota, and I am a crazy person if I think I could ever get into this. And so I started doing some other things outside of just rodeoing, where I did a lot of athlete relations. And so in that, it was a lot of paperwork, a lot of secretary work. And I was educating myself on the other end of the arena. So, instead of always being in the arena, I was educating myself on all the details outside of it. And some of those jobs were horrible too. I mean, some of those were like, you had to, I was a college intern. You don't get paid a penny, and you're traveling hours upon hours, and I'm like trying to figure out what in the world I'm doing. I remember one of the jobs for 10 days or 7 days in Salt Lake in 100-degree weather in July. My job was to stock like the Coke machines and the water and carry ice. And I had a golf cart, and then of course the golf cart quit. And so, it just was like one of those things where it's like, what in God's name am I doing right now? and so, then there was another, all of a sudden, there was this opportunity to come and do another TV internship, or they had offered, one company had offered us to go and like cover some rodeos. There was no pay involved. And I was like, this is a good, if nothing else, it's a resume builder. And so I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to go, we're going to try it out. Oh gosh, we traveled so many hours, and of course not for a penny. And I was like, it just made me so happy. And I was like, I love this. This is my thing. This is my group. I don't care that I haven't made a single dime doing this. I've spent so much money. I don't really care. I'm in college. I'm broke. That's fine. And I'm just going to go with it. And so I took that opportunity, and I called back the original people, and I said, if there's anything I can ever do for you guys again, please call me. And so they called me back, and they said, why don't you come with us to the NFR in Las Vegas in December? And that's the Super Bowl of rodeo. And they brought me on to be on their production team that does all of the live feed to all the hotels. And so so it was a huge production. It was, and I knew in that moment, even in my job, my job that week was to call for graphics. It was the most minute thing. And to go out on these different shoots and kind of just be a field producer and help the cameraman, carry equipment and do little things. And I was just like, this is the greatest thing on the face of the planet. There is nothing better. I'm able to know, what I'm looking for. I'm semi-educated. They're teaching me production. I'm teaching them rodeo. This is as good as it gets. And then the next year, I decided I took a lot of, how we talk about, there's the path and there's the 18 other ways that you can do to get there. And I definitely took the 18 other ways to get there. And, one of the things I did was I was in college, and I thought, well, hey, where I'm at school at, there's no boutiques. Maybe I want to open a boutique. And so then I opened a boutique, and that taught me a lot of business lessons. But, I did it, and I invested a lot into it, and I loved it. And I thought, the TV is a very scary world. Even though I love it so much with all of my heart, I don't know if this is something that I can do. And so I got into the clothing business, and that was an amazing opportunity, but it never struck me. It never was something that I was like, I want to get up and this is what I want to do today. And so then I did a lot more TV opportunities through college. I was, we went to some amazing venues, to some amazing, productions, and I just continued to slowly learn TV. I never went to school for TV, but it just was something that I had to learn outside of the classroom. And so then my senior year, I was about to graduate, and I was looking for, the next step. Was I going to continue to go and do TV and some athlete relations and be safe? Or was I going to take this other job that I was offered with the Cowboy Channel? And the Cowboy Channel called and they said, hey, I hear you're a young producer. We want to get to know you better. We are curious about you, blah, 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 blah. We hear you can do, athlete relations and you can do a little bit of TV. And I was like, and at the time I still had my boutique. I was just graduating college. I just quit college rodeoing because I'd gotten so many TV opportunities. I had to choose. And it was going to be, am I going to go and do TV my last year of school? And it was a big decision because my last year of school, I had the opportunity to either, like my last 3 years, have my school paid for, or was I going to take these job opportunities? And, there just wasn't time for both. And so it was a decision. It was, am I going to have a student loan or am I going to, go and rodeo? And so I ended up, taking all these jobs and taking the hit of the student loan, but it's where I am now. And so it paid off. But, I remember those last 2 months of school were so scary because it was like, I can very easily take this safe road and I know that I will be set. I know that I will never be stressed. I know that I will, and the other part of me was like, I'm 21. I want to live my life. I want to, be a young kid. And the other part of me was like, well, but wait a second, because there is so much opportunity in this other position that a 21-year-old should never be offered. But because of the steps that I've been able to take and because the people that have trusted me in my journey and my learning career, I do have this opportunity. So I would be crazy not to take this. And so I dropped everything. And he said, I need you here June 1st. And I remember I had 4 jobs lined up back to back to back the whole month of May. And so I was gone for the month of May, and then I caught a flight to Denver, and then I drove from Denver to Fort Worth overnight, Sunday night, started Monday morning. And so I lived out of my car for about a month because, my horses were at my parents' place. My boutique was still in Wyoming in the trailer. And I was at all of these different jobs that I'd already accepted. And I was freaking out. I was absolutely terrified and barely made it to Fort Worth and started my job that Monday morning. Started as athlete relations, started doing a lot of secretary work, a little bit of production stuff, but at the time the channel was still very fresh and very new. And so, our one job a day was a lot of secretary work. And then our one job was to record this 3 to 4 minute piece that, had to be scripted and stuff. So just writing some scripts and stuff. And then the whole goal was that they were going to start this show called Western Sports Roundup October 1st of last year. And there was a Western sports producer already here or already at the Cowboy Channel. And so I knew that I wasn't producing that show, which I was okay with because I was very uneducated. And this was an hour live TV show every single day, 5 days a week. And so I was thankful that she had it. Well, 2 weeks before the show launched, she quit. And I'll never forget because I was kind of her assistant. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in her office and she said, because she lived in Nashville and it was a Friday afternoon, and she said, when I go home to Nashville this afternoon, I'm not coming back. And I kind of laughed at her. I'm like, that's hilarious. Of course you're coming back. The show launches in 2 weeks. This is not possible. And she said, yeah. She said, I've just chosen to be at home more often. And so, that was at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And about 3 o'clock that afternoon, our executive producer pulled me in and he said, well, I hope you learn fast. And he said, the show is yours. And he said, this is going to be a big learning curve for you, but he said, you're going to figure it out and it'll all be fine. And oh my Lord, I was like, this cannot be real life. And so I'm this I guess I was 22 at the time. So I'm like, I'm this little 22-year-old and I just got a live show 5 days a week. I've never produced a studio show in my life. I've never made a rundown. I've never had editors. I've never had to, work with a team for that. And so it was insane. And I remember the first day of us ever taping, it took 6 hours to get 1 hour of TV. And it was brutal, and it was the most difficult and challenging situation I've ever come across. And then so October 1 will be our 1 year. And I started with no editors. I had to edit every single piece of video that went on the show. I had to book every single guest. I had to organize all of the schedules with the crew. I had a less than minimum crew. I had to completely create every piece of the show and every element. And, you don't think about how much content is in 48 minutes of TV. And it's completely insane how much that is. And now we've grown to the point to where we are live. I mean, every single day we're live. We don't pre-tape anything. We have multiple live Skypes every day. The show is nearly completely sold with advertisers and stuff. We started with none. And now I also have another show on Saturdays called Pro Rodeo Tonight, where we get to feature individual, cowboys, where we get to tell their story and who these people are, to educate viewers on these cowboys. And so it's really crazy. The nights the sleepless nights and the sessions of, in TV, it's an old man's world. And it just is. There's just not many women in it. Of course, the talent and stuff, but there's not very many, women producers. And not only being a woman producer, but being a young woman producer, where you can't be afraid of humility in situations. And you have to take, as the producer, no matter who you are, you're responsible for every single thing that goes up on that screen. No matter whose mess up it was, no matter if it was your talent or whatever, it's your responsibility. And so, balancing the figuring out the level of professionalism you have to have, and balancing your crew and scheduling everything and overcoming so many of those situations, and then just this past week, it's when people call me and they say, Western Sports Run, I'm like, wait, we love that show. That's our favorite show. What, and so it's like, wait a second, those days that I had the job of filling the Coke machine for not a penny, and the days that I was figuring out, that I was driving all night long just to get to Fort Worth to my first day on the job, the day that when she told me she was quitting, and then the day that it took us 6 hours to create that first show. And now that we're live, and not only are we live, we have multiple Skypes, we have multiple guests every single day. We have sponsors, we have advertisers, and people, not only that, but people enjoy the show. so it's really crazy to think that, you can be so confused in life, and you can be so confused in every single move that you're making, and just hope and pray to God that, it's going to work out, and it's gonna get to where you've always wanted to be. And then it's, you get through so many struggles and hoops and everything else, and it's all of a sudden it's like, wait, I'm here. Wait, I'm doing what I've always dreamed of doing. And now how can I better, what I'm doing to even reach my passion at another level? So, and then it's interesting, to think back on those things, and it doesn't take long. I mean, the other thing I was thinking about is I'm still only 23 years old, and that can, all of these life changes and all of these things can happen in a year or in 6 months. And sometimes you don't even realize that they're happening. Sometimes you don't realize that you're learning from some of the worst jobs and things like that you don't feel like you should be learning so much from, but you really are growing as a person in every level you didn't think that you would be. So I guess that's my journey and kind of my background on everything.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Karlee. And you will see that there is a theme here, right? Age doesn't matter. Being a woman in a man's world doesn't matter. But do you have the passion, and do you have the courage? And are you willing to take that step? Because ultimately in life, if we are not willing to bet it all for our dream, why should somebody else sacrifice anything to give us our dream?
Yeah.
right? As long as we understand that and we intuitively go with, you know what, I'm going to give it my all because this is what's going to be me. This is what's going to be meaningful to me. And when you take that courageous step, it's amazing how the universe rises up to meet you. Because neither Karlee nor Gigi ever anticipated all of these things falling into place.
No.
Right? But every step they took opened up opportunity for a few more steps forward. They never hesitated to take a step forward and then to put the next foot forward, right? So as long as we take that journey, no matter how dark, how uncertain everything is, the path will clear. How many of you have driven in mist or fog? It looks like you can't see anything, but the further you go, you can see the road. So when you're driving with faith that as I go the distance where I can't see anymore, a distance that I can drive with visibility is going to open up, right? And if worse comes to worse, I can pull over in the shoulder and wait and put the hazard lights on and hopefully somebody will see me, right? So if we can do that behind a wheel with faith in the middle of winter, right? Why can't we take life journey that way? Something to think about, because the path always gets clearer as we move forward. It is cloudy and hazy if we never step in, because we don't know what we don't know, right? And the other important life lesson both these professional young ladies have shared, love their journey, right? How can you not be fully captivated by each of their journey? The other thing that we have learned is that they never took no for an answer and they never said no to themselves. They were willing to give up everything for their dream and they kept going and they never took anybody's no for an answer. Right? Now, some of us here are older. Some of us here are going through COVID-related situations and we're continuously reassessing, where is our life going? What is the meaning? What have I done all these years? And is this truly me? Or what do I want to be when I grow up? This is a question we all ask. I've met 80, 90-year-olds who say, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So it's never too late to reinvent ourselves, and we can change and our purpose can change, right? So what lessons can we take from these two journeys as we start thinking about, what do I want my journey to be from here on out? And how do I want to show up? And what do I need to do to change the way I take the journey so that I take this for me? So with that, I actually want to have Gigi and Karlee give a word of advice to other people who are trying to find their purpose and take their journey. And then we're going to open up for questions. So Gigi, what advice do you have for folks who are trying to figure out, you know, what is my purpose? How do I take this first step forward? I am a little afraid.
You shouldn't be afraid. That's the first thing. Like for me, like to this very day, every single person that I've met in my life, even if it's a bad situation or they bring me some sort of good, I welcome it. Because every bad situation and every bad encounter in your journey, it shapes you somehow. Like I said the last time, you always treat people the way you want to be treated, right? So whatever step you need to take to get to where you need to get, don't overthink it. Just let it, like, you know, like take its course. Don't, but I should probably take my own advice sometimes and not overthink, right? Because I had to go and get a massage yesterday because I felt like my head was about to blow up. But it's crazy because whatever step you take in life, even if it turns to be a bad decision, in the end, you'll look back and be like, okay, well, it taught me this or it taught me that. I should probably do this the next time instead of that, you know? So my advice is just to keep moving, like keep at it. Like don't give up. If you could reach out to someone and be like, hey, I have this idea, what do you think? And whatever they share with you, just try using that as a stepping stone. Like for me, I find like lately, a lot of my people that I talk to are older people that have already, how do you want to say, experienced life or experienced stuff in business. A lot of my friends now are like older people, and I love that. Like you, Auntie Kath. So like, it's just like, I always find like older people to be wiser in a sense, and they share their journey as well, and I kind of like use that as my stepping stone as well. And I'm always open. I always welcome like people advising me. Like I don't turn down advice, you know. So that's my advice.
Thank you for sharing that, Gigi. How about you, Karlee? What guidance?
To go off of what Gigi said too, you know, not only in the situations, but I'm a really firm believer that every single person you meet has something to teach you. And you always say that when you never want to just talk to talk, you want to talk to speak, and you want to listen a lot more than you speak. And I'm a very firm believer in that. And that could be the person at the coffee shop, that could be the person on the side of the road, that could be obviously your boss, that could be your mentor, that could be a teacher, it could be the teacher that you like the least, it could be, you know, it could be the friend that you can't see, it could be the friend of the family member like Cass was talking about that you can't stand, but that person at the end of the day, you know, if you don't ask questions and if you don't just visit with the person and you don't take a second to visit, you're never going to learn anything. You're never going to come out of your box. You're never going to take the next step up. And so that would be my number one thing. And the other thing that I am also a firm believer is, you know, be confident in every single step that you're taking. And you know, walk with confidence, carry yourself with confidence, because if you're not walking with confidence and your shoulders not high and your head, you know, your head's in it and your head's in the game and you know what you want to do and you know what your goal is at the end of the day. And maybe your goal at the end of the day is to learn something from one person. But, and you know, you can have a different goal every single day. But if you don't carry yourself with confidence and walk in knowing that every move that you take is getting you to the next step or getting you to be the better person or, you know, taking you to that next level in your career or whatever, I don't feel like you'd ever get there, because, you know, if you don't have confidence and believing in yourself that you'll get there, how could you ever reach that? So I guess those are my two pieces. Just, you know, everyone that you meet, you're going to learn something from, and be confident in every move that you're making.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Karlee. Thank you, Gigi. I'm actually going to open it up and have a conversation so I can see people have questions, people have ideas and thoughts you want to share. So go ahead.
I'll start here, Cass. We were writing in the chats how amazing the stories were, and it's related with how you go chasing your dreams or chasing your ideas on how you are what you think is right and what is right for you. And I think that there is an important lesson there. That is, if you know what what you want and you want to pursue it, and you can learn in the process. You can make mistakes in the process, but as long as you keep going, you will get that. And I was writing to myself here a couple of notes, and I remember about a book that was talking about the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. Maybe if we talk, I think that the name of the book was The Secret. Mm-hmm. And it's related with how the law of attraction. So you go trying to get more good things about the life, and you try to always be positive of that good thing will happen at the end. Mm-hmm. And you don't really care about the goods and bads in the process, but you keep going. Mm-hmm. That you know that at the end of the day, everything is going to be okay. Mm-hmm. You end up attracting the good vibes to yourself, and that's I think it's a bit of what I heard today in terms of, you know, I knew that there is something better for me, and I knew that I needed to pursue, and I know that at a certain point, everything will match, right? Will come to pieces. And G was mentioned at the beginning, she was going probably over another hurdle right now. And we know that this is not going to be up all the time, right? So we'll have ups and downs. We'll have our valleys. We just need to understand basically how we center back ourselves, and from there we'll keep moving. And so that's something some thoughts that came to my mind as we were discussing on this.
And very important point, right? The universe is physics, right? And if we understand physics and quantum physics, it's all about energy and how energy attracts the like, right? So if we go through life in a way that we are putting out positive energy, we're putting out confidence, we are putting out authenticity, then all those things that are attracting to people are going to show up, and the right people will show up. Because if you walk, like Karlee said, with your head held high, your shoulders back with confidence, and you speak your truth, you speak it firmly, and you speak it with mindfulness, nobody will stand up and challenge you.
And that's been the biggest lesson in TV for me. Mm-hmm. You know, being a young person in that industry is very scary, and it's very crazy. And being a producer, not only in that, but the second that I sit up and I say, this is what's going to happen, and this is how I would like to see things happen, and I just speak it, you know, and it's not firm or rude or anything like that. It's just a simple confidence. And you know, the other thing that you were talking about with the law of attraction made me think of, you know, when you're passionate about something, it's easy to be happy about the situation, and it's easy to want to talk to somebody about it. And when you can tie that into your career, when you can tie your passion into what you do on a daily basis, it's impossible for people to not want to be a part of that and be a part of that conversation. And that's exciting.
Yes. And remember, excitement is contagious. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to be with a Debbie Downer, right? Everybody wants to be with positive, happy people who just walk into a place and make things happen. Just for a moment, when you look in the mirror, put your shoulders back, put your head up, and try talking to yourself from your stomach, not from your throat. So if you feel like your voice is not coming out right, squeeze your stomach. And that is your real voice, right? And if you speak like that and you show up like that, and see the difference how people treat you. Those simple things of how your posture and how your voice comes across, if it is grounding, it is believable. Right? So practice that. That is a very physical way of being in the moment and being present and being grounded. And that actually attract, because your energy is grounded, you attract other grounding energy, and therefore you get the support you need. Mm-hmm. If you sound like you're high-pitched, you're talking from here, right? And a lot of women do this. They feel like they have to sound like a squeaky female voice. No. Actually sound like the voice from your base, right? Because that is your real voice, and own it. So if you're comfortable with your own voice and you're comfortable with your own message, then people are going to be gravitating towards you, right? Because there's beauty in it. Believe it or not, there is a lot of beauty. Any other thoughts, questions? Go ahead, Kristen.
Yeah, so first of all, both stories are so inspiring, and I'm so grateful to have heard this today. And as the person was speaking, I was being reminded of what you said before about the universal right to meet you if you're putting out positive energy. And something came to mind. I know I shared with you all a couple weeks ago that I never thought I would go into a career in finance because I didn't think that I liked math, and I thought I hated numbers. But because I was in an admin assistant position at 21 years old, and this woman took me under her wing and taught me everything. And I absolutely love finance now. 16 years later, it's like my favorite thing in the world. Obviously, I have other passions outside of that. But anyway, so sometimes when we don't always know exactly what we want, but we do put that good energy out, I believe like things happen for a reason and fall into place. And this week in particular, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos of Tyler Perry. Mm-hmm. And one thing he said was, do good and work hard, or work hard and do good, vice versa. That's like his motto. And his story is so incredible. I've always watched his Medea movies. I love Medea. And I never knew that he had so much hardship when he was starting out. He started by doing all these plays, and apparently, like, he would spend all his money to produce this play, and like no one would show up. And this happened for like 7 years straight. And thank God he didn't give up, because we wouldn't have the big star that we have today. That not only is he a star, but he does so much good in this world. So if anyone has time, like, just Google Tyler Perry. Goldman Sachs actually interviewed him. It was like a 35-minute one. And there's another one that was about 10 minutes, and it said his rules for success. And they listed like 10 things that he lives by. But also, we talked about before, like Gigi said, she learned every job and everything that was going on in her company. And I think that's so important too, because he did the same thing, Tyler Perry did. So now he owns his own studio. I think it's like the biggest one in America. But he knows every job in that place. And he knows what every person is doing and how to do it. And that's a beautiful thing too. So
Agreed. I couldn't agree more. And it's and with that too, it's another level of appreciation. And you know what, and the other thing, in his position where he owns it, since he knows what every job is, he's able to go and talk to that person if they're having troubles, or go and talk to that person if they're struggling. And, you know, I don't know, I mean, how many owners, how many producers, how many executives can we talk to that are also in that position? So I think that's really exceptional I think that's really cool about him.
Very true. Thank you so much. Monique, do you have something you want to share?
Sure. I just want to let Gigi know that I'm extremely proud of her. Gigi has been one of my childhood friends. I say childhood, I met her at high school. And we've had this bond of always supporting each other. She's one of my friends that I truly admire. From a very young age, Gigi has always been mature. She's wiser than her years. And during the time that she was deciding to venture into her own agency, I remember the conversations vividly, and her sharing that, you know, it's something that she has an opportunity, something that's pretty much set in stone. It gives her that security cushion, but she decided to venture into the agency because she knows it very well. And she saw in herself that it's something that she can do. And she said, you know what, Mons, I will do this because I feel I will be successful in it. And I told her, I'm here to support you. Gigi has been a pillar in my life too, and that goes to speak on her personality and her character, because she's a very optimistic person, sometimes too optimistic. And I'm really proud of the young lady she has grown to be. And I'm excited to see new things that are in store for her. And I liked to be a part of this conversation today. I really appreciate it. These things are pivotal in my life. For the past, I'd say 5-6 years, I've been on this quest of self-discovery, discovering who I am. And I realized that much of what we are as individual is how we wire our minds. And so I've been on this mental quest of, you know, feeding my brain with information. And it's not only looking at educating myself, but looking at how I can assist others to elevate and to find their purpose in life. And so I know we touched on leadership earlier. And as Gigi had shared with you, I recently transitioned into a managerial role in my organization, and I'm one of the youngest manager on the team. And one of the things that one of my colleague, and I say colleague because I still refer to them as colleague and not subordinate, something he shared with me is that, you know, I'm an anticipatory leader. So I anticipate problems before they arise. And I try to solve them, but I also give people ownership in doing that. And I resonate a lot with Craig Rochelle and his talk. So I think it's important that, you know, as individuals, we create this space that allows us to share, network, and allows us to have this platform to connect and to look at elevating each other. So I'm really appreciative of being a part of this session today. I look forward to joining other sessions and getting myself acquainted with everyone that's on this meeting today. So thank you very much.
You missed last week. Last week was really good.
They're pre-recorded, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you could go back on
recorded.
her
I would
page.
be posting it
Perfect.
on the YouTube channel. So I will make all of that available. But Monique, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for supporting Gigi, because it also truly shows the strength of the community and shows us the importance of a network like this, right? Because it doesn't matter where in the world we come from, we can still support each other. Because ultimately, as human beings, our quest, our journey, and our purpose are all aligned, right? Whether it's Belize or Chile or United States or Sri Lanka or India, it really doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, we're all human, right? And the other thing that you mentioned, Monique, is about, the leadership journey. So last week we talked about some of those brain chemistry, right? We've talked about the brain chemistry through the last prior 3-4 weeks as we talk through emotional intelligence and all the elements of emotional intelligence. Just want to reiterate, if we look at our brain, our left side of the brain is all about what we do. So it's our IQ and our skills and our capabilities. The right side of our brain is who we are. Our kindness, our empathy, our compassion, our ability to connect and build relationships, right? Somebody with a very high right side, very high left side without a right side, it's almost like a sociopathic savant. They are very good at what they do, but they cannot connect to human beings and human life. That can be dangerous, right? So how do we consciously build the right side? And how do we consciously show up with kindness, with gratitude, with empathy, with mindfulness? Because it's that what is helping us rewire ourselves. Because nobody wants to be around a genius jerk. Literally, right? Nobody wants to be around a genius jerk. How do I show up in a way that people want to be around me? Because being a leader is not a title I give myself. Other people have to wake up every day and decide, I am going to follow Monique because something about her inspires me. And I am going to learn and grow because of my willingness to follow Monique. And she's going to invest in me and she's going to make me better than I am today. That is why people wake up every day and choose to follow somebody, not because we have title. And when I teach organizational behavior class, just yesterday I was teaching a class, the conversation about power came. How do people derive power? There is position power, there is relationship power, there is knowledge power, and there's influence power. The one power that everybody is afraid of and nobody can relate to and truly turns toxic is position power. Because I'm the boss, you're going to do what I tell you to do, and I'm going to bully you into doing, because if you don't like it, go find another job. That is the power that is truly toxic and counterproductive. Your knowledge power, nobody can take from you. But your knowledge power doesn't help you if you don't have influential power. Influential power is one thing that every organization is terrified of. Have you been in organizations where when the boss tells you something, nobody listens, but there is one person on the team, when they say, everybody else listens. So the boss calls that one person and says, this is what I'm going to do, so make sure you let everybody know this is how we're going to move forward. And until that person speaks, nobody listens. Kind of like Fauci on the pandemic in the United States, okay? So the influential power, it is terrifying to people in position, but it is the one thing that's going to propel you to leadership. So if you have that influential power and you layer it with your left brain knowledge and you bring in your relationship building capability from your right brain, you're going to be unstoppable. So this growth journey is truly about rewiring to connect your left and right brain instead of settling for this is all I'm good at. People have told me my whole life, right? Cass, for a finance executive, you're too kind, you care too much. Because I've been a CFO for a $22 billion organization, and they tell me I shouldn't care about people. I'm like, okay, let's take a pause on that statement. You just said, for a finance executive, I care too much. I would rephrase it as, I'm a human being who cares, who happens to be a finance executive. Because the flip side is, I'm a finance executive who happens to be human. Until Martians come here and take jobs, that is not even a consideration, right? So I interject humor, and I have this conversation to remind people, kindness and compassion should not be a choice if we are talking about humanity, right? And that is that right brain mentality that we need to bring in and remind people that we are successful because of our kindness, compassion, and empathy, not in spite of it. Because those are the things that are going to attract people to us. And those are the things that are going to help us build authentic relationships that are going to lift us up, right? Because you always know who to go to. You don't go to the person who's most successful when you're in trouble. You go to the one person who really gives a damn, right? And that is the person that everybody gravitates towards. And how do we become that person who can balance both that right brain and left brain? Know what I know, be great at what I do, but also show up as a decent human being, right? And that is where the balance is. That is the balance Goldilocks is teaching us. How do I bring that centeredness of my right and left brain so that I can show up as a being, and then everything I do becomes successful? Kind of, you get the Midas touch because people are going to rise up to make you successful. So thank you for bringing the opportunity to share that nugget, Monique. Any other thoughts, any questions? Kristen, go ahead.
Sorry, so another thing came to my mind. So like you said, just the whole the kindness and empathy thing. Again, if we think about even with Karlee, like maybe one day the girl filling the Coke machine, you know, she's going to be your producer, she's going to be your boss. And that's why in my life, I think it's important to treat everybody with kindness. And one thing that makes me the most mad and will be a telltale sign if I want someone in my life or not is the way they treat wait staff at a restaurant.
Oh, yes.
I can't stand it when someone's rude to the server. And so I don't know, that's just kind of how I live my life. But I do think, you know, everything does happen for a reason. We are all connected and it's important. We're all human at the end of the day. So it's important, like I said last time, to lift each other up. But I think there is something important in having kindness to anyone, because you never know who one day is also going to be your boss.
True. Mm-hmm. I always jokingly say, be careful whose toes you step on your way up, because they're connected to the butts you have to kiss on your way down.
With that, it reminds me of, you know, you never know who is going to be your boss someday. And so, and I couldn't agree more with you with treating the wait staff as they should be treated, treating people as they need to be. But, you know, like you say, we are all human. And sometimes we're going to make mistakes and we're going to be rude and we're going to make a wrong comment. And that's just part of being a human. But the flip side of that is that have enough humility to be able to own that and fix it. And because then when that person does become your boss, or that person does become your coworker, or hey, maybe the worst situation, you have to share an office with that person someday. It's okay, because you were able to be, you know, you were able to fix it. And so I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with you. The wait staff is so frustrating, because it's like they're doing their job, they're just trying really hard. But yeah.
I'm sorry that I just was saying, I agree with you, because I meant to say also, none of us are perfect and we do all have bad days, but also I think it's more like consistent behavior. Like if it was like you're with someone and they're like rude every single time, that's a problem. But I also agree, I don't think there's ever any true failures or mistakes in life. I think everything is a growth lesson and a stepping stone. And when you look at things like that way, even though it can be really hard sometimes when you're in the midst of something difficult, that's putting out that positive energy again, so the universe can reward you with more positive things too. So thank you.
Like Edison said, he learned 1,000 ways how not to make a light bulb. That's what we have to keep telling ourselves, right? We are learning how not to do things. Yes. So that eventually we'll figure out what is the right way. And what is the right way for me is not going to be the right way for you, Kristen. It's not going to be the right way for you, Alejandro. We're from different cultures, different geographies, different contexts, different genders, ethnicity. All of that is going to have an impact on how we show up, and that's okay, right? And can we also accept each other the way we show up? It's funny, I always watch in the office how people treat the cleaning lady. If the CEO is not there for a month, nobody will miss the person. If the cleaning lady is not there for half a day, everybody is crabby, okay? Because the toilets are a mess, right? And yet, how many of us know the name of the cleaning lady for our floor? How many of us truly know her? I have a truly amazing story. When I worked for Aon as a CFO for one of the divisions, we had our New York office in Twin Tower 2, and 9/11 happened, and we lost our office, we lost our employees, and our entire backup was in Twin Tower 1. So we lost our data too. Chicago became disaster recovery. We are working late nights without going home. Our families came to visit us. And that first and second night, our entire cleaning crew brought trays of pasta and salad just for my finance team. And everybody is like, yes, why are these guys bringing you food? And it occurred to me, when one of the cleaning ladies was pregnant, we gave her a baby shower because we give our teams a baby shower, right? So she's cleaning our offices every day. She's part of our team, regardless of who gives her a paycheck. So we actually threw her a baby shower. We did not speak Polish. She did not speak English. We would sign language and give diagrams, right? And we will pass messages, but we threw her a baby shower. They all remembered that. And when we were in trouble, cleaning ladies don't make enough money, but they pulled their resources and brought us food because they wanted to make sure we had something to eat, right? I always share this story to remind people you never know who's going to show up, right? And it's those faceless people that we think are invisible. You'll be amazed at the lessons they're going to teach you. So, any questions? Any other thoughts?
I actually have two questions. Oh my God, I'm emotional now. But the first one for me is when it gets hard, I tend to run. What advice could you guys give me to help change that? Because I never know if I'm running because I should run, or I'm running because I don't think I belong, or I'm just running because I'm just trying to escape. But I tend to run a lot. And I was trying to run from a managerial position that I had recently that now, well, I don't have a job anymore because I'm moving, but I tried to quit twice and my boss refused to let me quit. She was like, you can't quit when it gets hard. Like, you can't quit. I need you here. I need you with me. I trust you. You have so much potential. You're young and everything. And I was like, 24 now, but I was 23, managing a staff of older people than me. And I had no idea what I was doing. And then when things started to get kind of like tough, I just felt like I wasn't the right person for the position. So I tried to quit twice, but she didn't let me. But now she had to let me go because I'm leaving. But yeah, that's kind of like the scenario I'm asking about.
So what goes through your mind? What is your internal conversation like? Just tell me, give me a nugget of what your internal conversation sounds like when you go through that situation, because that will help me get to the bottom.
So specifically, it happened over simple things. So when I would mess up on simple things, I would be like, how am I messing up on simple things? Like, how am I messing up counting stuff? How am I like forgetting this? How am I forgetting that? Like, are you really that dense? Like, are you dense? Like, what's wrong? What's happening? Like, what's going on through your head? Like, why can't you focus? Like, you're not focusing enough. And like that kept coming up for me. And then I was like, so am I supposed to be in this job? Like, am I really supposed to be doing this job? Am I responsible enough to do this job? Do I have like focusing problems? am I like worthy of doing this?
Okay, but the last question is what I was trying to get at, right? Ultimately, when people run from things, at some subconscious level, there is this belief that I am not worthy of it. All these good things are happening. I'm being given this opportunity, but I am a fraud and I don't deserve this. Something in our childhood trauma has put us in that place, and this is why we need to do our rewiring. Next week, we're going to talk about Enneagram and how Enneagram coaching can help us rewire ourselves and get our right brain and left brain synced so that we can show up as a whole person with a heart, mind, and body all together. So once a month, we're going to do an Enneagram conversation. And so please attend that. But this ultimately comes from that childhood trauma of believing deep down that you do not deserve this. And that is a very sad place to be for you, because a part of you wants this. You're showing up every day to do this, but your subconscious mind is telling you something, right? So, A, you have to work on rewiring. B, you also mentioned that you're working with older people. So I'll draw from my experience. I went back to Sri Lanka with an undergraduate degree in computer science, math, physics from India to start off as a management trainee for a British bank. I was 21 and my staff was 40 or older and all men and all in unions. Okay, they called me daughter. I call them Uncle so-and-so because that's the culture, right? You don't call adults by their name. I didn't know anything. I knew technology. The bank was migrating to technology. We were actually moving to global automation. And the automation was being done out of Sri Lanka. So they hired me to lead that initiative. Even though I was only 21, I was the first batch of technology students to come out of Bangalore University. So I didn't even start in finance. I was a technology person. I didn't know accounting. I didn't know banking. I knew coding, but I knew to get along with people, right? I learned everything from my team. I let them teach me. I took lessons from them. I fed them. I brought them food. I love food. So anybody who knows me knows my thing is I show my love with food. So I took food to the office every day, and everybody teased these men saying, oh my God, this woman's putting voodoo magic on the food and she's enslaved these grown men and they're doing everything for her. They would have all these stories about me, right? Normally women have 18 ways of hypnotizing a man, and Kasturi has 36 ways, and she does it with food. And these guys were harassed and hazed and teased. But we worked together as a team, and everything I know today, they taught me, right? So there's nothing wrong in leaning into people we manage and learn from them, because we are giving them the opportunity to recognize their knowledge power and giving them space to show up and mentor me and guide me, because it is not, leadership is not a one-way street, right? So as a young person, the only way we're going to learn and make mistakes and learn to manage is letting the older people we're responsible for teach us. Because when they teach us, they're also going to watch our blind spots. So before I sign anything, they will make sure that they've checked it all up. And they will tell me, they call me Dada Kasturi. So it's like, you know, in our language. And they're like, don't sign on this because we have to make changes because this and this and this is wrong, right? Because in banking, zeros have values based on where you place the zeros, right? It's 1,000 or a 10,000 or a million, right? So everything has to be very carefully managed. And part of it is knowing that I'm worth it. I deserve this. The other part is giving everybody their due and their space, and not getting too caught up in the position power, but giving everybody their knowledge power and giving everybody their influential power and building it like a family, like a cohesive team, because this is not a competition, it's a collaboration, right? So both these are right brain activities, not the left brain activity. This is why rewiring becomes very important.
Okay.
Does that help, Ariane?
Huh?
Does that help, Ariane?
Yes and no.
Okay. What is the no part?
Okay, so in terms of this specific environment, let's just say, I think this is the best way I could put it. Everybody else in the environment didn't really want much for themselves, and they were settling for less.
Okay.
Yeah, so at this point, I was the one that had the associate's degree, right? And then everybody else was just there. It wasn't like I wasn't learning from anyone. They had like the radio on 8 hours a day, just blasting it out. The coworker I did have, she let's just say she had a very toxic personality as well. And it was just a lot. Like she tried to keep like teasing me and getting under my skin. And it was just it was not a good environment, and I felt like I didn't have any room to grow. And it was just like the environment where people just don't want much for themselves, and they just keep putting themselves like even lower and beneath you for the things that you like do or are. How do you show up like as a kind, compassionate individual in these parts of environments if like you're placed there again, or if I would ever be placed in a situation like so again? I would honestly not want to, but if I would have to go through it again, if it taught me something.
So I show up as a kind, compassionate person because that's who I am. It's not about what the other person deserves, right? If I am not kind, if I'm not compassionate, then I am killing a part of me that is me. That's how I look at it, right? And if I kill a part of my kindness and a part of my compassion because somebody is not kind to me, little by little, I will start losing my humanity. I grew up in the middle of a civil war. We would be raided middle of the night by military, and they would rape mothers and daughters and kill them in front of fathers and sons. I have seen things that no child should see even before I became a teenager. I was a refugee in my own country. But one of the things I learned through all of that is no matter what other people's intent are, if I show up kind and I show up with compassion, I can deter them and distract them from what they're doing. What I mean by that is they go house to all the minority homes to do this because we were a persecuted minority by our government. When they come to my door, my mom and my sister, I hide them because my mom can't handle it. My dad was working overseas, so I was the oldest daughter. In my culture, oldest daughters are the head of the household. So I would open the door, I would let them in, and I immediately start talking. I tell them they look tired, I'll make them tea, I'll make a nice dinner, what do they want, right? I don't show fear, I don't show anger, I don't show hate. I am gonna show up who I am. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen to me? They're gonna kill me, then I'm dead, and they're Buddhists and they're gonna have to pay for their sins because we all have karma. So this is my childhood logic, right? I'm like 10, 11, 12, right? So I show them kindness, I make them tea, and it so happened that every time they came, they never raided us. They came home for tea and they came home for dinner. And when I packed my bags and left Sri Lanka at 16, I left home at 16 to pursue my education in India. The night I had my bag packed, they all came to wish me. These were the same military guys who have raped other mothers and killed other daughters. But they were different with me because I treated them different. So life has taught me that it doesn't matter how somebody else shows up. I choose how I'm going to show up. If I choose to kill my kindness and kill my compassion, then I have allowed them to make them into themselves, right? And I look at life as my kindness and my ability to connect to people is my superpower. It is my gift from my God, and nobody's touching that. Nobody is touching that because I choose how I'm going to use it, and nobody tells me how to use it. And no circumstances, no human cruelty, no human indignities are going to change that, because that is a gift from my God, and how I use this is my gift to my God. It's that simple to me. So those of you who know me from work know that's how I show up, right? Those of you who know me from life know that's how I show up. And I do not back down. I quietly speak my truth. When I see somebody, even in the office, being mean to somebody else, I step in, I stop it, right? Because we all have the opportunity to change. And then I've also learned that when people show up in that negativity, they're showing up in that negativity because something happened to them when they were young, their trauma. So if they have an opportunity to see somebody showing them kindness in the face of their cruelty, they are going to stop and ask, why are you being nice to me? And then that's the opportunity to say, I see the potential in you. You don't need to be this cruel. You don't need to be this harsh. You don't need to be this disconnected. What do you need to do to get out of it so that you can live your whole life? Because I see cruelty as a cry for help. Some are just sociopathic. You need to learn to walk away. But walking away is a different choice than turning into somebody I'm not to deal with them, right? Who we are at the point of stress is who we really are. So I always say kindness, compassion, empathy, morality, they're all like being pregnant. We are never a little bit pregnant. We're either pregnant or not. I'm either kind or not. I'm either empathetic or not. I'm either moral or not, right? So how do I show up as me authentically at all times? And if people don't see that and take that and change it, that's okay. That's them, right? And you can walk away from it. You don't need to change yourself. So Ariadne, what I would recommend is if people are unkind and people are cruel and people are nasty, be kinder to them.
That's what I do.
Healing with kindness is the best revenge, because you will find eventually they are crying and sobbing and apologizing because they realize they've been so horrible to you, and yet you've been the kindest person to them. It truly does happen in life.
Yeah.
But do not compromise who you are, because once you've changed, then somebody else will have to rescue you. Go ahead, Kristen.
Sorry. So one other thing, talking about childhood trauma, because when Ariadne said she didn't feel worthy, I think I learned something last night. So there's something, because we all have trauma and it does come out and pour over into every area of our lives. We have to learn how to resolve the trauma and not just cope. So for me, with certain things, for a lot of years of my life, I was just coping, and that can come in many different forms, distractions, whatever. Anything to just cope, but it's the real work has to be done in resolving.
Yes. Thank you, Kristen, for that. Rewiring and going through coaching for that rewiring process is essential. Remember, even Michael Jordan has a coach, right? So we can all learn and grow. So in order to build on all the conversations we are having and help people start thinking about how to rewire, I'm going to start having every fourth week of the month a Enneagram conversation on how to combine our left and right brain and take this journey. And I have a friend of mine who also does Enneagram coaching. John and I are going to co-host every fourth week to talk about Enneagram and how you can start integrating Enneagram into your own journey. And if you need individual coaching, each of us are available. You can choose which one you want the coaching to be with. We do corporate coaching. We do individual coaching. Some of you here have been coached by me, so you know what this is all about, right? But remember that this is a journey that we are including here as part of our webinar or part of our show to start helping people think about how they want to build their future and how they want to shape their journey. Okay. So John is a younger generation coach. So I always like to pair up with people who are culturally, racially, generationally different, only because then we bring different perspectives. And it's also important to model the diversity and the inclusion and the compassionate, kind behavior that I'm talking about. I like to model it in the way I go about doing things. So I always bring different perspectives and different ways of doing things into the conversation. So John and I are looking forward to having the build-up of this conversation through Enneagram. And we've actually called the partnership Ennea Aspire. We're going to aspire everybody to become who they are capable of being through the journey of Enneagram. And Ennea means 9. It's about 9 different personality types that we all have the potential to embody. 3 of them are head-centered, 3 of them are heart-centered, and 3 of them are body-centered. And how do we bring those together to show up as a whole person so that our heart, mind, and body are engaged in everything we do? So I am super excited to introduce John to this group, this growing group. And I'm also super excited for you to get a copy of my book, read it. Feel free to sign up for information on the book. The book takes you through the journey and gives you life lessons on how to craft your own journey. And in the chat, I have placed the link where you can go and see where to sign up if you want information on the book. So with that, I, as always, want to share a closing thought with you. We've talked about this. In life, every human interaction we have is an opportunity for our transformation. Every person we come across is there to teach us something. Something about how to become, something about how not to become, something about what not to do, what not to be, as well as what to be and how to be, right? So every human interaction is an opportunity for our transformation. Go out there, engage with people, transform lives, and please remember, you have to start with your own. So transform yourselves, transform your life, and through that process, help transform other people. With that, thank you so much, Karlee. Thank you so much, Gigi. Thank you for sharing your inspiring stories. Love everybody who's been here, shared your thoughts and your inspiring wisdom and experiences, and look forward to seeing you all next Saturday.